Okay. So whoever wants to watch this can watch this later. Hello, I'm Leia. I'm in Jamaica. There's a storm coming up. Don't know if it's gonna hit us or not. Whatever. No, we're safe, so whatever. Okay, I can't wait for it to stop. Okay, the reason I have chosen to present this survey is that I always find it difficult to present my own views on any specific topic, and I wish to explain this difficulty somewhat. This is called The Present State of the Philosophy of Science by Joseph Agassiz. My views are those of an apostate and one from the school of Sir Karl Popper, who was for long little known and less understood, yet whose popularity is now rising somewhat. I find it hard to assume my audience to be sufficiently familiar with Popper's views to enable me to proceed to criticize him without much explanation and offer modifications to his ideas as I would wish to do. I shall soon present some gross misconceptions of Popper's views, which I feel I have to clear beforehand. But there is a more serious obstacle than mere misconceptions. Those who are familiar with Popper's views are often defenders of the majority views. This is to be expected, of course, yet it causes for me no small difficulty. I am always wary of being taken as a critic of Popper from the majority's viewpoint, from the right, as it were. Whereas, in fact, if I at all enter the debate between Popper and the majority, I am so much on Popper's side that my disagreement with him becomes negligible. So we first have to determine what Popper's views are. So I guess research time. Called Popper overall views. Popper is best known for his critique of totalitarianism and his defense of freedom, individualism, democracy, and an open society. Ah, perfect. His political thought resides squarely within the camp of Enlightenment, rationalism, and humanism. Oh, wonderful. That's a fun one. I'm always wary of being taken as a critic of Popper for the majority's viewpoint from the right, as it were, whereas, in fact, if I at all enter the debate between Popper and the majority, I'm so much on Popper's side that my disagreement with him becomes negligible. Okay. So that was a lot of blah blah. My disagreement with him becomes negligible. I like that. This is, of course, no enviable position either. I confess I have myself found it amusing that, say, members of different religious camps unite against the threat of agnosticism. Yet this amusement is only just when aimed at some petty politics of a disagreement. Otherwise, it is perfectly reasonable that Catholic and Protestant should view differences between their views as secondary compared with what they share in opposing the agnostic. This is merely a matter of a sense of proportion. And so it would hold equally for the manner two agnostics may view any differences between themselves as compared with the differences both have with any true believer. Quite naturally, they will oppose him first before they start opposing each other. One thing I need to write as well, just before. Hey, hello, how are you? We're talking philosophy. So I just learned about Karl Popper. Karl Popper is known for his critique of totalitarianism and his defense of freedom, individualism, democracy, and an open society. Let's see. Among philosophers, Karl Popper is best known for his contributions to the philosophy of science and epistemology. Most of his published work addressed philosophical problems in the natural sciences, especially physics, and Popper himself acknowledged that his primary interest. Oh, so he left his. Hey. So yeah, most of his published work addressed philosophical problems in the natural sciences, especially physics, and Popper himself acknowledged that his primary interest was nature and not politics. However, his political thought has arguably had a great impact as his philosophy of science. This is certainly the case outside of the academy. Among the educated general public, Popper is best known for. Oh, yeah. He was a dogged opponent of totalitarianism, nationalism, fascism, romanticism, collectivism, and other kinds of, in Popper's view, reactionary and irrational ideas. Collectivism? Why against collectivism? Well, I mean, we have to be very careful about collectivism, but I feel that is a very unemotional way to approach life that is not necessarily healthy. Where it's like, oh, I don't need nobody. That's got a lot of introvert on it. Popper's rejections of these ideas was anchored in a critique of the philosophical beliefs that he argued underpinned them, especially a flawed understanding of the scientific method. This approach is what gives Popper's political thought its particular philosophical interest and originality, and its controversy, given that he locates the roots of totalitarianism in the ideas of some of the West's most esteemed philosophers, ancient as well as modern. His defense of a freed and democratic society stems in large measure from his views on the scientific method and how it should be applied to politics, history, and social science. Indeed, his most important political texts, The Poverty of Historicism and The Open Society and Its Enemies, offer a kind of unified vision of science and politics. As explained below, the people and institutions of the open society that Popper envisioned would be imbued with the same critical spirit that makes natural science an attitude which Popper called critical rationalism. This openness to analysis, I'm not absorbing any of this shit, but the highlighted part I absorbed. That was the overview that I needed. I don't know. I'm gonna read Twilight. I'm gonna read Twilight. I'm gonna